Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 25 of In the 11. We are rounding out our first week here in Denmark and embarking on week number 2. So I'm going to give you guys kind of the update on everything that happened during the week and a little bit more about the house that I'm staying in and kind of what's coming up and what's on the horizon here. So let's get it rolling. So for those of you who listened to episode 24, you probably heard me talk about a little bit where I was going to be staying more permanently while I'm here in Denmark. So when I arrived, I just did my quarantine with the coach that I'd been speaking with to kind of set up this whole opportunity. I just felt like that would be the easiest. I didn't really know how strict the rules were with quarantine, if I was really able to even leave my house to get food or anything like that. And being that I've never been to Denmark before, I just wanted to have someone kind of there with me that I knew fairly well to help navigate any problems that might arise. And also helping me, get my tests to test out of quarantine, all those types of things. So I took my test 4 days after I arrived, which is the earliest that you can take a PCR test here to kind of test out of your isolation. So I did that, and then I received the results the next day. I took the test on Thursday, received the results on Friday. So that meant that I was eligible to leave my mandatory quarantine, and I was kind of free to go about Denmark. That night, then Friday night, I moved into the house where I'll be staying for the rest of my time here. It's kind of a friend of a friend of a friend type thing. Had a friend of the coaches had like I said, friend of a friend had a room in their house that they had rented out in the past, and that was available right now, and got in touch with them before I had come over to Denmark and had spoke about renting the room out and kind of agreed on terms, I guess, and now I'm here. So I have a bedroom for myself. This is actually kind of a little living room area that I'm actually recording from right now, right outside of the bedroom, and then there's like a shared kitchen and bathroom area. It's really nice. It's probably a 10-minute, 15-minute tops walk to the training ground and the stadium, which is super convenient. And yeah, it makes everything super local for me. There's a grocery store right up the street. There's really, everything's kind of within walking distance, which is honestly perfect, since right now that's the best mode of transportation for me. So, as I said, I moved in here on Friday. I've been here for a couple days now. Also, that first week while I was in quarantine, I wasn't really able to train. I can talk about that a little bit. The training that I was on, we would really just, which I don't know if it was totally allowed, but at night we would just go for runs sometimes, or I would go for runs sometimes just to try and stay a little bit fit. We didn't really want to do anything out during the day or anything at the field, just because I was supposed to be under kind of a strict lockdown, and I was just going out to get fresh air. I didn't go anywhere, didn't interact with the public. I don't think it's really that much of a issue. And then Friday, after I tested out of my quarantine, we went to the field for the first time, so I got to train on the training field for the first time. And also that day, once I had tested out, we went around and saw everything for the first time. I got to see the stadium, which is amazing. Got to see all the training grounds, see some of the neighborhood that I'll be living in, that sort of thing. Friday night, we went to the field and trained with a few of the other guys that are going to be on the team. It was just some light kind of technical stuff, crossing, finishing, just to get back and touching the soccer ball again, which was awesome. Having, really taken 2 weeks where I wasn't able to do anything because I was in between travel plans when I was back at home, and then when I got here I was in quarantine, so it was kind of a long time. And then too, just I always kind of get I always have a moment in my head when I play in a new place where I kind of say to myself, like, I remember it happened in Germany when the first time I played there, because I basically got off the plane to Germany, stayed there a night, and then the next day played in a match. And you kind of have this moment where it hits you where it's like, wow, like I just played in Germany, or I just played in Denmark. It's a cool feeling to have. And I know it will feel more real once I actually train, or really the biggest thing will be once I get to play a match, and I think it will sink in the most. But Friday went well, just kind of got my legs back underneath me. And then Saturday we trained again. This is a couple of the same guys, and we just did like 2v2s, played for a while, did some fitness at the end, and that was that for training. And then today, I'm recording this on Sunday, you guys will all be hearing this on Monday. Today was just an off day, so I thought it'd be a good time to go out and explore the city of Aarhus. So Aarhus is the second biggest city in Denmark, and it's really the big metropolitan area that is in this area. And I kind of live in a smaller neighborhood, think of like a suburb outside of Aarhus called Obihoy. But I was able to walk into the city today. Only took me about 45 minutes to walk in. And I always like doing that when I am in a new place. I just like walking around and just kind of seeing everything. And I feel like it gives me kind of a good feel for what the city's like, a good vibe. And it's just always something that I've done. It kind of helps me get more accustomed to my surroundings and see what the city is like. And so that's what I did today. Just kind of went out and got my bearings a little bit and saw the city. And it was really cool, honestly. I don't know if I really have like a great comparison for those of you listening and in other places around the world, but just really cool architecture, very kind of classic, I guess, Scandinavian or Nordic houses and apartments and things like that. You kind of have some of those cobblestone streets with the different brightly colored houses that you would see in Copenhagen maybe, but they're also present here in Aarhus. And there was this really cool part of the city, because Aarhus is a harbor town. It's like a ship town. So part of the city is right next to the harbor, which I went and got to see the harbor, see the water, see a lot of the ships. That was really cool. And then kind of right on the other side of the part of the harbor where I was at, there was like this canal that has all these shops, all these restaurants running all up and down it. And then it looks like, in a non-COVID world, there's tons of outdoor seating potentially for people to sit right alongside the canal. And it looked like a really cool place to be. I mean, especially when we don't have a pandemic going on, but just even today, it's probably in the 40s, maybe high 40s here for weather. And, there's still so many restrictions, and almost everything was closed, but there were still so many people just out walking around and visiting the city. And it just had a really cool feel to it. And I think it's definitely something that I want to explore more and do more things in the city as things start to open up and I'm able to experience that a bit more. There's also this really cool building that I've read a little bit about. I don't know if it's a museum on the bottom or what. I think it's like a culture museum, and at the top they have this thing called the Rainbow Room, which is this big circular window kind of room, this big glass room at the very top of the building, and it all has colored glass, so it makes a rainbow across it. And then it has it's just like a viewing area for like the whole city. It kind of looks out over everything. So hopefully when that's open, that's something that I definitely want to check out. But that's kind of the rundown for how everything's going in terms of where I'm living now, where I got to see, stadium, field, all that stuff in my kind of neighborhood, and then also what the city is like, because I wanted to share that with you guys as well. And before I get to talking a little bit more about some of the soccer portion of what the future is going to be for the next few weeks, I do want to talk a little bit about tell us about your dream. Because as you remember last episode, I was talking to you guys about how the tell us about your dream, I wanted to make sure that we emphasize that in this kind of new series or new season, I guess, of the podcast. And I had a couple submissions, and I want to read a really good one that I had from Noah Quartnick. And Noah actually reached out to me on Instagram as well to talk a little bit about the podcast. So hopefully I can answer some of his stuff here. And then, if you guys have any input or if I can be of any more assistance, I'd be happy to do that. But basically Noah has a similar dream to myself right now. He, wants to play professionally overseas in Europe, love of the game, passion for the game, can't see himself stopping, likes to be around fans, teammates, coaches, etc. Some of the challenges that he's facing right now pursuing the dream, which is probably common for a lot of you that are in the United States, specifically right now because of the pandemic, but also just as a whole in a non-COVID world. So we'll kind of address that as we get into it here. So challenges facing right now, deciding between playing soccer overseas, starting a full-time job as a civil engineer. He goes to an engineering school in Illinois. A civil engineering job in the US is more stable financially, obviously, but didn't know if I could still work and play at the same time overseas, or if I can support myself playing the game I love. Currently 21, turning 22 soon. Senior, ball winning, 6'4", senior, wow, tall. 6'4", senior, ball winning center back, Illinois Institute of Technology, Division III. Pandemic limited the season, still training, lifting, all that good stuff. That's good. And then advice, looking for advice to get trials overseas right now in the midst of the pandemic. And I've been applying to those countries, but a lot of them have strict guidelines that would only allow me to come if I had an EU passport. Do you have any advice for finding a team or to reach out to teams, and kind of just advice on the trialing process and coming over to Europe? So a lot to break down here. First of all, I would say the big thing is you come this far with your degree, make sure that you finish that degree, especially because it's something like a civil engineering job. You mentioned something in here that I want to point out that maybe doesn't get talked about enough in this kind of profession is you said, didn't know if I could still work and play at the same time overseas. So this actually might be a really good way for you to get yourself overseas, get yourself a work visa. You have a highly specialized now kind of education, right? A civil engineer is something that is hard to become, and not a lot of people have that skill set that you have now. And a lot of countries, specifically Denmark and a lot of the Nordic countries, I know for a fact, have specific visas tailored towards hiring people in STEM professions, so science, technology, engineering, math. So this might be a really good opportunity for you to apply to, and it could be in a ton of different countries because a lot of countries have something similar to this. Go and find yourself a job in Europe somewhere as an engineer, and then figure out the football part of it, because you'll have a work visa that will allow you to stay here a little bit longer. And then once you're actually in a country, you can go out and go on a bunch of different trials with teams in the lower league, do well, work up. That's kind of the way I feel as though, in my experience, and I think other Americans who have kind of gone the same route as me will tell you is the best way, is find yourself a starting point, and if you play, I'm not sure totally what the level was at your school, or kind of, I've never seen you play, but if you go to a country, maybe 6th, 7th, even 8th division or something, just to get your foot in the door, and then play there for half a year, play there for a year, all the while you're kind of looking for your next opportunity to find a new team, that might be a really good way to go about it. Because also, your job as an engineer will be able to support you. It'll be able to cover all your living expenses. You won't have to worry as much about finances, which is huge in this. I talk about it a lot and I'm going to continue to talk about it as I record this podcast, the money part of it is so huge. So if you can set yourself up financially, then it's going to make everything a lot easier for you, and especially if you have that visa like I talked about as well. So that would be something that I would definitely consider, like research a market a lot and just maybe pick a country that you think would be best suited for you, or pick a city that you think would be best suited for you. I think the Scandinavian markets are great because it's a high quality of living here. It's, I guess, a well-organized government system. Tons and tons of people speak English, and it's not as difficult to assimilate as maybe another country where English is less widely spoken, or maybe it's more difficult to immigrate to. So that would be kind of my advice in that specific, with your specific situation. And those of you out there listening, that's another way to do it as well, is go and find yourself a job outside of football. I mean, obviously we all know the goal is to become professional as soon as we can. It's my goal for sure. But the reality is, if you come from a college soccer program, nobody really knows who you are except for teams in the United States. So you have to come to Europe and make a name for yourself. And it's really hard to go from the college level to jump right into a professional trial overseas in Europe. So I would start in the lower leagues, and a lot of people might question you if you come and play over here in the lower leagues, like, what are you doing? And that's okay. That's a part of the business. This is what you're going to have to deal with. And just stay focused and stay motivated and continue to push yourself to try and get to those higher levels. So, and then the last part here about looking for advice to get trials from teams overseas in the midst of pandemic. I've been looking and applying, but there's strict COVID guidelines, EU passport. Yeah, so even without the pandemic, having the EU passport is like the golden ticket. It's creates a lot more ease of you traveling throughout. With the pandemic now, it is really difficult. My hope is that come summertime, it will be a little bit easier for teams to, or countries to, allow people in again. Because right now, like you said, the restrictions are really tight, and it's going to be really hard for you to find a team that's going to be able to take a chance on you. I got really lucky in the situation. I'm just being honest. I would continue to just email teams. What I would say is, if you're not getting as much results, maybe you might want to start to look at levels a little bit lower than you're hoping for. And like I said, start a little bit lower, then work your way up. With what I'm not a scientist, but what I hope is going to happen is, as we get into the summer, more people are getting vaccinated. It's starting to get warmer again. It will maybe lead to a little bit less restrictions on travel. Summer of 2020 was kind of when everything was a little bit smoother, and then it got worse again as we got into the winter, got into the holiday season. Now that we have a vaccine, people are getting vaccinated in the United States. I hope that come summer or by fall, that the world might be somewhat back open again, because especially economically, for a lot of these countries, to not have tourism is a really huge hit for them. So I imagine many countries want to open up as soon as possible once they are allowed to. So I would just, stay on the grind, continue to do what you're doing, email, and get vaccinated if you can, because that's going to be a huge thing that will probably help people be able to travel with a little bit more ease. And then hopefully by, this summer, when you're done with school, or maybe this fall, it will be an opportunity for you. And if not, then, maybe the winter transfer window of January of 22, just continue to go, continue to move forward, and something will eventually come. So hopefully that answers all your questions on that one. And I think that was a really good one, because that kind of is, I'm sure, what a lot of other listeners are kind of in the same boat as Noah. So happy to talk about that one a little bit more and with my experience. So getting back into the episode here, just talking about kind of what's the plan going forward here in terms of the football. Team training starts. First team training is this Tuesday. We train 3 times this week with a Tuesday session, a Thursday session, and then a Saturday inter-squad scrimmage. And kind of right now it's a little bit tricky because the rules are in Denmark as of tomorrow you can have 20 people in a setting, I guess. That's the mass gathering that you're really allowed to have. And so with our training, we'll have to be separated, and like it can't be more than 20 or 25, it might even be, in a specific area of the field. And then, like I said, we'll have the match this Saturday, which is just like an inter-squad thing. With that rule, though, we were supposed to have our first official match on March 27th. Unfortunately, that's not going to be able to happen because these restrictions are in place for the whole month of March. So when you get to March 27th, where you have 2 teams of 11, coaches, subs, referees, all those types of things, you get higher than that max capacity that you're allowed to have for a gathering. So I hope that by that first week in April we can play that game, but I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. There was talks of maybe mid-April, but it's kind of waiting on what the Danish Football Federation decides to do, and really what the government decides to do in terms of any restrictions that they're going to implement come April. So for now, the plan is in March, just train as hard as I can, just train like crazy, train like a madman, and try and get in the best form that I possibly can. So then when the season starts, I'm ready to go. I'm able to help the team and do the best that I can, because the tough kind of thing about it is I only have 90 days on the visa that I'm currently on. I'm going to try and get it extended if I can. I'm going to work as hard as I can to find a way for me to stay here longer. But as of right now, I only have until the middle of May to make something out of this opportunity. So, I think maybe one could argue I should have tried to come a little bit later to make my 90 days better within the realm of the season, because the last game isn't until June 20th. So if we're in a promotion battle, I'm leaving a month before, like 4 games, I think, before, 3 or 4, before the season ends, which, especially if we get promoted, that's going to be tough to be at home and watch that happen and miss out on that celebration. But like I said, I'm working on trying to do something to change that, because, I didn't want to just come 2 days before the first game and then I'm not really ready, I'm not really fit, and then I'm not even in the team. I wanted to give myself a preseason so that I could get ready, get acclimated to the team, hopefully perform well, and be able to be in the 11 week in and week out. And I thought that giving myself a preseason would be the best chance to do that. And then, if I have to leave in May, which may be the case, then so be it. But right now, kind of the plan is to do really well and then, kind of replicate what I did in Germany. It's going to be seeing if I can find another level to play higher than this. It's going to be able to provide me with a work visa, to provide me with a residency permit so that I can stay here longer. But like I said, I am exploring a ton of different options. Just like I was mentioning in the Tell Us About Your Dream, I'm looking at regular 9-to-5 full-time jobs as well as an option for me to maybe stay here a little bit longer. And I'm looking at school a little bit, but school's really expensive for me to try and afford right now, so I don't know if that's going to be the best option for me. So really it's just focusing on the football, trying to get trials, trying to get opportunities with clubs, and also maybe a job as well. I think the tough thing too about it is, because of the restrictions, I don't really want to travel anywhere outside of Denmark right now, just because worry about what that would even be like, or if that would even be a possibility. So right now I'm kind of limited to, at least with who I could go and speak to and who I could go and trial with. Right now it's just Denmark, unless things change in these next few months. And then, I can still contact teams from other places, but probably can't go and actually trial or visit any other clubs outside of Denmark for right now. So it's difficult because I want to just place all of my energy on doing everything I can for this club, for Oberhøj, but at the same time I can't, because I have that clock ticking in my head of those 90 days, and I need to kind of do what's in the best interest of myself and make the most of this opportunity, which I'm going to do everything in my power to, and that's really all I can do, is just work as hard as I can and try and make the most of this opportunity, and then we'll see what happens. So that's kind of the plan as we roll into these next few weeks. I haven't started that process yet. I just want to get my feet underneath me here in Denmark, and then kind of size up the scene and then move forward from there. I mean, the other thing I think that I've been doing so much research on all the different visas in Denmark, and from what I gather as well, if I do want to get a different visa, if I want to have a work visa or something else, and I'm on a tourist visa or a 90-day visa, so to speak, right now, I think I have to go and apply for that in my own home country. I don't know if I can do that from Denmark, so I don't know if it's really even plausible at all to stay in Denmark and go from a 90-day visa to like a permanent visa without going back home to the US first. The plan is to ask for an extension to stay, just those few extra weeks to play out the rest of the season, but I have no idea if that will get approved. That kind of is just, I think, at the mercy of who's ever working in immigration, if that's even allowed, or if they want to do that. Like, I know in Germany I was able to get extended for 90 days, but I don't know if that was a different rule or what. So it can't hurt to ask, but there is definitely a strong chance that I'll be going back in May, just based on kind of the situation and everything that I'm reading. But worry about that down the road. But just wanted to kind of update you guys on the whole scene, because I know a lot of people, will ask me, oh, how did you get a visa there, and all that stuff. So that's where I'm at with all of that. And yeah, again, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have the wheels kind of turning again. It just reminds me so much of the time in Germany where I was just kind of always moving and hustling and trying to think about how I can move up in this game and how I can do well and make a name for myself. So it's cool to be back in that state of mind again. And Europe kind of brings that out of me. And again, it's just cool to be back in Europe, just walking around the city and just feeling a new experience, a new culture, and all those types of things are really, really unique. And I think the situation so far has been better, because I think it's a bit more of what I imagined it being like, coming and playing for a European club. Everyone for the most part is Danish here, and I'm coming and kind of trying to assimilate into the culture and trying to adapt, and I'm living in a Danish home, and I definitely feel like more comfortable, I think, with just solely the accommodation part of it now than I did while I was in Germany. So that has been a huge help, just being able to sleep a little bit better at night, like having a private bathroom and being able to cook some things for myself too, it's a big help mentally, because it is challenging, it is taxing to do this on you mentally and emotionally. I know how I talk about how much I love it, and I do. I love what I do, and I love being able to pursue this dream, but there's just so much that goes into it, and it can get a lot sometimes. So you want to have certain things taken care of, that you can rest when you need to rest, and you can relax and not feel on edge. You can have times where you can wind down and that sort of thing, and recover from training and recover from matches. So it's been good. I've been here for a week. It's crazy. It flew by so fast, and I can't even imagine, what these 90 days are going to be like, especially once we get into the thick of it with training and everything. So I'm just really excited for these next few weeks, and hopefully there's something big in store for me, and I feel optimistic and hopeful that the work that I've put into this far is going to reap some reward. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for checking out episode 24 and for all the comments about the episode and everything. I really, truly appreciate it, and I appreciate your support. Continue to follow along here with me and send in those. Tell us about your dreams. We had a great one from Noah today, and I'd love to continue that type of dialogue on each one of these episodes. And if I can help you guys in any way, I would love to be able to do that and kind of give back to the community here. So send that in on the Google Form submission. You can find all of that linked below, and I'll make sure to put all of that good stuff there. And I will see you guys in a week, because we're on that weekly grind now. We're on that weekly episode producing of content. So I will see you guys very soon with more updates, more stories, interviews, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for listening.